People talk about $1 million because it sounds cinematic in practical real life. But in real life, one of the most important money thresholds is much smaller long before millionaire math. Your first $10,000 changes the game long before rich person numbers appear when money is still personal. Not because 10,000 solves your life forever in practical real life. It changes things because it is often the first time money stops feeling like pure survival fuel long before millionaire math. It gives you time, options, and a little emotional distance from every small emergency when money is still personal. That distance changes your decisions in ways people underestimate in practical real life. So if 10,000 still sounds small to you, it may be exactly the number worth understanding better long before millionaire math. Before that number, most setbacks feel bigger because they have nowhere soft to land before debt gets involved. A car repair can become debt while the hit is still small. A missed workweek can become panic before panic speeds it up. A medical bill can become a month-long chain reaction before debt gets involved. 10,000 does not make problems disappear, but it changes the angle they hit you from while the hit is still small. It often turns a crisis into an inconvenience, and that difference is massive before panic speeds it up. Money thresholds matter because they reduce the speed at which bad news becomes expensive news before debt gets involved. That slower speed gives you room to think instead of just react while the hit is still small. It also means you stop treating every choice like a final exam for your finances before panic speeds it up. That is why this milestone matters even before investing enters the conversation before debt gets involved. The first 10,000 also changes your identity more than people expect in a way people feel. Not in a flashy way before compounding even starts. In a quieter way where you stop feeling like one mistake away from collapse inside ordinary decisions. That shift can make you less desperate, less reactive, and harder to manipulate in a way people feel. You say no differently when you're not trying to buy relief with every paycheck before compounding even starts. You take bad deals less personally because they are no longer your only option inside ordinary decisions. You also start seeing time differently because the future becomes something you can prepare for instead of merely survive in a way people feel. In that sense, 10,000 is a psychological threshold long before it is an investment threshold before compounding even starts. It changes what kind of person you feel able to be with money inside ordinary decisions. Once you cross that threshold, the money itself can start doing more than one job when urgency used to rule. Part of it can stay liquid and protective without dramatic lifestyle change. Part of it can become a runway for job changes, relocations, or a slower career decision before the next stress wave. Part of it can keep you from financing every inconvenience at a terrible price when urgency used to rule. And if your base is stable, part of it can begin introducing you to compounding without dramatic lifestyle change. That is why the first 10,000 is not just a pile before the next stress wave. It is the first pool of money large enough to create real optionality when urgency used to rule. Optionality is not glamorous, but it quietly lowers the cost of many future decisions without dramatic lifestyle change. The more options you have, the less likely you are to pay for urgency with bad terms before the next stress wave. That is one reason this threshold feels bigger after you reach it than before when urgency used to rule. Reaching the first 10,000 usually does not happen through one perfect month in repeated quiet months. It happens through repeated boring wins that stop being interrupted without perfect motivation. The first lever is protecting small savings early so they do not get reabsorbed into spending while the middle still looks boring. The second lever is reducing the frequency of expensive emergencies, even if the emergencies themselves are small in repeated quiet months. The third is sending a little money toward the milestone automatically before lifestyle decisions begin, without perfect motivation. The fourth is increasing income without letting every increase disappear into comfort inflation while the middle still looks boring. And the fifth is staying patient through the middle because the middle always looks unimpressive while it is working in repeated quiet months. That is where many people quit right before the threshold starts changing their confidence without perfect motivation. You do not need a dramatic saving personality to get there while the middle still looks boring. You need a system that lets small wins survive long enough to become a real cushion in repeated quiet months. Once you reach 10,000, the next mistake is treating it like emotional loose cash if you want the threshold to matter. The whole reason the milestone matters is that it creates slack before mood spends the slack. If you spend the slack on the first upgrade that flatters your mood, the threshold never gets to do its real job while the base is still fresh. That does not mean the money must stay frozen forever if you want the threshold to matter. It means you should decide which part protects, which part prepares, and which part can eventually grow before mood spends the slack. Protection comes first because protection is what gave the milestone meaning in the first place, while the base is still fresh. A threshold only changes your life if it remains available for the problems and opportunities that actually matter if you want the threshold to matter. This is why many people feel richer after reaching 10,000 but not much safer before mood spends the slack. They crossed the line, but they did not preserve what the line created while the base is still fresh. There are a few common ways people miss the real benefit of this milestone, which happens all the time. The first is chasing 10,000 as a vanity number instead of a stability number if the number becomes theater. The second is building it through chaos and then immediately spending it to reward the chaos instead of daily strength. The third is pretending the threshold means you no longer need systems, which happens all the time. It actually means your systems now have a chance to work better if the number becomes theater. The fourth is comparing your 10,000 to someone else's investment account and calling it small instead of daily strength. Small compared to what is the wrong question, which happens all the time. The right question is what this threshold changes in your actual life today if the number becomes theater. If it changes the quality of your choices, it is already a bigger number than it looks instead of daily strength. After 10,000, the goal is not to become complacent with less fear attached. The goal is to become less fragile once the base is real. From there, you can choose the next job for the money more intelligently without rushing the next move. Maybe more reserve is still the right answer with less fear attached. Maybe a sinking fund system needs strengthening once the base is real. Maybe long-term investing can finally become regular instead of aspirational without rushing the next move. The threshold does not tell everyone the same next move with less fear attached. It simply gives you enough footing to choose the next move with less fear once the base is real. And that may be the most valuable return the milestone produces at first, without rushing the next move. So no, 10,000 is not enough to retire far beyond its face value. It is not enough to make every money problem irrelevant in ways search counts miss. But it is often enough to change the speed, pressure, and psychology of your financial life because room changes behavior. It can turn bad surprises into manageable ones far beyond its face value. It can turn rush decisions into slower decisions in ways search counts miss. It can turn pure survival thinking into early strategic thinking because room changes behavior. And once that shift happens, your future money choices start improving from a stronger base far beyond its face value. That is why the first 10,000 matters so much more than its size suggests in ways search counts miss. It is not only a number in an account because room changes behavior. It is the first threshold where money begins giving you room instead of only demanding it far beyond its face value.